Good morning. We are on Facebook Live this morning on Ask the Profit First Professional. So today is going to be a little bit, I don't want to say technical, but it is a little bit one of the harder things to wrap our heads around when we are business owners. Often when I'm working with clients, we will say, all right, you've got to take your bookkeeper hat off and put your profit first hat on. The two go very close together, but there are some differences. And this is going to be one of the biggest differences that we deal with. When you're looking at the cost that it takes you to do your business, above the expense line in general accepted accounting principles is the section called cost of goods sold. In a tax sense, most of these are the same thing, as far as you're not going to have to pay income on these pieces versus expenses. But in a profit first world, there is a reason why we don't call it cost of goods sold and why we call it materials and subcontractors. Now, the biggest reason, and we'll get back to what the definition of materials and subcontractors versus cost of goods sold in just a minute. But the biggest reason is that in profit first, we deal in percentages. The percentages show how healthy your business is. In bookkeeping, accounting, in real cash world, everything is dollars, actual amounts. So I want you to keep that in the back of your head and why we have to pull something out of what percentages we use when we're allocating to our profit, owner's pay, taxes, operating expenses, payroll, whatever other accounts that you might have there. Materials and subcontractors have to be looked at as something that you purely pass through. It just passes through your business. You have almost no control over them. They are completely autonomous. They are not tied to any decision that you are able to make in the goods and services that you provide. That is the biggest way for you to look at what would be categorized as a material and subcontractor in profit first world versus a cost of goods sold. So let's talk about this. If you're in the construction business, then depending upon what you do, you will create things in the construction business. You are building things. If you are, let's just say that you are someone who puts roofs on houses, there are some different levels of what type of roofing company you are. If in most cases, you are the one that goes in and provides the labor to put the roof on the house. You are not manufacturing the roof. You are not getting to say what product is on that. The client is saying that you're not, you purely are going out, purchasing the roof materials and putting it on, and there's a little bit of a margin there. That would be considered what your materials. It's also in the accounting world a cost of goods sold. But let's talk about that labor. In the accounting world, you could put the labor as a cost of goods sold. But in profit first, it's not. It is part of the way you operate your business. It's a part of the way you operate your business. Think of it in that terms. So you get to control who you hire, how many people you hire, what you pay them, for the most part, what you pay them per hour, the benefits that you offer, the time off they give, the vacation they get, and then there's also the expense of what state you work in and the taxes you have to pay as part of being an employer and for the labor on that. So let's step back a minute. And when in the accounting world, if you are a roofer, you're going to put the labor and you're going to put the material, the actual roofing material there under cost of goods sold. In a profit first world, you're purely going to put the roofing material and not the labor there. What's the difference? The difference is the percentage what you're basing your percentage on. Over here in bookkeeping world, you are taking your total revenue minus those cost of goods sold, and then you're coming up with what we're saying the real revenue, or gross profit is what we call it in accounting. And over here, you have your top line revenue. That's why I purposefully called it different things for profit first, so that we know we're talking profit first and not accounting, minus those materials, not the labor, gives you your real revenue. And now you're allocating percentages. Now you're saying, all right, at the level that I am as a business, where things should be allocated. Now let's go back to principles on this and why. I'm a big proponent of why we do this. When you are first starting out, when you have the dream of being an entrepreneur and you put the sign out in front of your door, start your social media saying, I am now a roofer. What are you doing? You're the one out there doing most of the work. You're the one that is probably keeping your books and cleaning the office space and doing the hiring and cutting the payroll check. And you're also out there on the roof, putting the roof on. And that is why when you're at those lower dollar amounts, that you are taking a higher percentage home, because you're doing a lot of work. Now, as you grow and you grow and you grow, we all know in Profit First World that your percentage gets smaller, and that's because you need to hire in order to operate at those larger dollar amounts. And now you've got more to be allocated towards employers. So maybe you don't have to keep your books anymore. Maybe you can have an HR person or hire a payroll company. And maybe you still are out on that roof, but at least you've got a crew out there to help you do most of the work. That's the principle behind it and why percentages. So let's talk about if you're manufacturing something or you are actually selling a product. Let's say that you are someone who is, you've got an Etsy store, and all you are doing is that you are, maybe Etsy's not the good example there. Let's say that you've got something that you are purely taking, let's use that. If you are in someone who you're making personalized tumblers, and I know this kind of sounds silly, but think about personalized tumblers. You're not making the tumbler, you're buying it at a wholesale cost, and then you are increasing your margin on it. So you will put the actual tumbler there in that middle section of your materials and subcontractors. And then as well as whatever other expenses for the materials that you use on that. So in that case, materials and subcontractors are the same as cost of goods sold. This is one of the touchiest points that we really have to work through with clients on what is a material and subcontractor and what's a cost of goods sold for profit first purposes. So if you've got a question, I want you to private message me and let me know, or ask me the question, but do it in a private message here so I can kind of go over it with you, or give me a call directly on our Sum of All number. You'll end up being routed over to me, and then I can help you through the questions on that. So again, if you are questioning whether something is a material and a subcontractor versus an operating expense, I want you to err on the side of putting it as an operating expense. And sometimes when we're doing assessments, we'll do it both ways. What does it look like if you are categorizing as a materials and subcontractors, and what does it look like if you're doing an operating expense, and what does that make sense in the business as far as the ability to operate in that way and the healthiness. And really, it's the reason Profit First exists is to take care of you as a business owner, that you pay yourself for the work that you do in your business, as well as the risk that you take in operating your business. Otherwise, just go work for someone else, don't have any risk, and just take that paycheck home. But the whole reason why you're here is because you are taking those risks. So I know this was not a very easy, I don't see any comments coming in, but this is one of the toughest areas of muddling through with profit first, and it's an area when we were being certified in it that was the hardest part on our test as well. So, all right, have a great week. See you next week.